I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we're featuring a delightful children's book filled with humor, heart, and a one-of-a-kind jungle hero. It is written by a terrific author that you might recognize. He's a former NFL player with the Miami Dolphins, SeanTHill. And he introduces readers to an amazing book that he has penned. It is called Alewicious, The Vegetarian Alligator and the Little Bird. It is a playful adventure packed with catchy rhymes, colorful characters, and a powerful message about kindness and individuality. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Sean, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
As they used to say in the 1970s, you've come a long way, baby. From the NFL to writing children's books, you're doing both with excellence. Talk to us a little bit about this creative spark to write this book about Alewicious.
This journey began for me post football career. 20,000, I say about 2000-ish started I have two older daughters now who are 31 and 29, but at the time they were 4 and 5 ish. So they were moving back to Canada, and part of that was, how do I keep that distance, that make it not so far with them being in Canada and me being in South Florida.
Mhm.
My mother worked for the military, the U.S. Army, for 30 plus, 35 plus years. And she worked for Army Community Service. She sent me a book called Dad at a Distance. And in
Mhm.
that book, it was where they would send the troops when they were deployed, and it had ideas. Now, mind you, this was long before internet and FaceTime as we know it.
Right.
One of the things in there was like write letters, read stories. I'd read stories to the girls before, but I wanted to do something that was more personal. It's like that I
Mhm.
put time into it. So I just started making up stories to read to them over the phone at bedtime, and Aloysius was one of those stories that came about.
Cool. Wow, that's an awesome backstory. It's a way to stay connected with your children, and now it's turned into a children's book for other children and families to enjoy. Now, I was going to ask you why you chose an alligator as a main character, but I know you're from Florida, and it's kind of like the national pet around here. So, talk to us about choosing Aloysius as a character in the book.
Honestly, when I was thinking about the story, yeah, it had something to do with Florida, but really it was when the girls and I would say goodbye to each other. I mean, it
Mhm.
was see you later, alligator, after a while, crocodile. So that became, and I'm sure most people would have heard of that before,
Yeah,
but that became our way of, and said, I don't want to say goodbye. I don't want to.
yeah,
It seemed, so when I would drop them off at the airport, that was what we would say to each other. Um, so then I said, out of a story, what kind of character could I use? And then I said, okay, alligator, crocodile. Crocodile seemed a little rougher around the edges. So I thought of alligator could kind of be a little bit more playful in that. And then when it got down to the rhyme, it was what rhymes with delicious. And there's
Aloysius.
very few names that rhyme. So Aloysius is how he got his name. And that's how the story came about, starting from that.
Very cool, very cool. I enjoyed the backstories of your work very, very much. Give the folks at home a little bit of an overview of the story. Tell them what it's about.
The lesson, when I wrote the story, I wanted at the end of the day to teach my daughters a lesson. Like, I had gone through some things that people weren't always what they seemed. I wanted to tell it in a playful way to let kids know it doesn't always have to happen to adults. It could happen to kids too as well, where someone pretends to be something that they're not, or they tell you to do something that you shouldn't do. So I just wanted to turn a life lesson that I had gone through into a story for children to understand that it happens to them too as well.
Mm.
It just, out of that lesson, doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad person. Just mean you kind of could have bumped into someone who told you to do the wrong thing. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad either, but learning their people's true motives
Hmm.
and their um, objectives of what they have planned is something that you just have to be self-aware and just look at that too as well.
Absolutely. I know you used to tell your children a lot of stories. Is this your first time publishing one of them? Do you have plans to publish more?
In the beginning, I did, Mr. Crawford. I strictly wrote this for them.
Hmm.
What happened is a gentleman by the name of Christopher Dura,
Hmm.
he had written a book. His book was Let's Get It, the top 10 ways to help improve your nonprofit, which he had that published through Morgan and James Publishing. He sent his book in, and I think at one point in time he was on the New York bestsellers list. But with Morgan and James, one of the charities that they had was for Humanity.
Hmm.
Throughout my NFL career, we worked with Habitat for Humanity, and I have to say one of the most fulfilling things is when you hand keys to families and this is your house. Like to see
Yeah.
that is one of the most touching things I've been involved in. So he was explaining that along with the keys, they wanted to give the kids children's book. And he asked me if I knew someone who had written. I told him I wrote a book and stories like 25 years ago. And he said, why don't you send it in? I'm like, nah, I don't really think so. But I sent it in to David Hancock of Morgan James Publishing, and he was like, I love this and I want to publish it.
Wow.
So from that, it stemmed on, okay, what more can I do from this story? So then the wheels got turning on how to make this more stories, which I have,
Hmm.
but I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to write them. I mean, I would like ultimately to be in like a TV animation where a TV show with the
Like a
kids.
creative director or something, you've got
Yeah,
the big
something like
picture
that. With
idea and then see it executed, right?
yes, sir. With that being, but now having that been said, there's several stories that I have written since then that falls underneath Alewicious. I just think it's expanded since then. Alewicious was just easy because it was a story about an alligator. Well, now it's more so of about jungle characters, creatures, and the problems and issues that they deal with, but really taken from, I guess, my life and my older sister as a pair of alligators and the things that they kind of go through and their friends kind of go on that journey with them as well.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great story. I'd love to see it turned into animation for children, and I'd like to see this become a series. I think it'd be wonderful. You've got a website above your head, aloysiousgator.kids. Tell us about that website. Is that a place where they can find out more about the story, buy the book? Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Well, Aloysius E. Gator, it came with out of short because for short, if it's Al, ALE, which his middle name is Eugene, which happens to be a name that I picked off of one of the late great Miami Dolphin running backs, Eugene Mercury Morris.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to honor him in that. So Aloysius Eugene Gator is his name, but Aloysius E Gator dot kids is the website, author website that you can find out more information about Aloysius, the book, stories to come, and things of that nature, and where we're trying to go with this.
Wonderful, wonderful. Your daughters must be thrilled to see that story that you told them all those years ago now in print, right?
Yeah, it's funny because they're like, well, we don't really remember that like that, but it's kind of cute. And so within that of telling the story, I had a chance to read for some kids at our school, and some of the reactions I got were mixed. So I have to tell you, partly I went back to the drawing boards and I said, how could we come up with something else so it's not so shocking? So at the end of the day, I thought, okay, here's something interactive that we can do. We'll have a jungle ending and then we'll have a bedtime ending. And then I went back and rewrote the story as a bonus enhancement to the story to give kids options and parents options of how they want the story to end. And then their discussion can be made on why did you like this ending? Why didn't you like that ending? What would you write if you were writing your own ending? So I wanted to make it interactive after I first got the feedback from the children and some educators as well on, okay, well, we love the story, we love the rhyme, we love the lesson. It's a little. So I went back to the drawing boards and said, you know what, let me make this more. And I think it kind of got to be more interactive for the kids because now it's a DIY, do it yourself, where they can print and cut out. And if they've purchased the book, they can download the bonus features and be able to make it and put it in their book and have the flaps where they pick out the ending if they want. And if they want to write their own ending, of course they can do that too as well.
Well, that's great because that really fosters creativity. Let me ask you a little bit about the NFL and life after the NFL. There must be no greater thrill in the world than to be driving to, the arena on a Sunday to go play football in front of most of America. And every player really only gets to do it not that many years. You retire when you're 30, 35. If you're Tom Brady, maybe 45,
Right.
but you retire young. What's it like? Is that the greatest thrill? Is it like being a fighter pilot in World War II? Nothing will ever come close? Or
I
what's
think,
life post NFL?
honestly, Mr. Crawford, I think it's whatever in life that you want to do, that you really enjoying, you're going to get that thrill from that. For me, it
Yeah.
was football because that's what I wanted to do. There was some loss and some search after my career ended from injury on what would be the next step, what was my next goal or challenge, because I really didn't have anything that I felt that I loved as much as that. So there was a few years where I was a little lost. You
Right.
know, within this being lost was the time when I actually started writing. Not that I
Mm.
knew at that point in time it would take me here,
Yeah.
but I just think it was for me just by the grace of God that he allowed me to write all these things at that point 25 years ago, and now it's all coming to fruition. So as I started transition into older adult and different careers, and it just steered me to writing,
Awesome.
this book that I did the work 20 something years ago. So now it's like this is the icing on the cake. This is dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and it's just
Yeah.
been fabulous. And I would have never guessed that I would be here at this point in my life.
Very, very cool. And for anyone, when you leave your career, there's kind of a what do I do now moment. Most people face that when they're 60, 65, or 70. You guys face it when you're, like I said, in your late 20s, 30s, or whatever it might be. And whenever you're doing anything that's super stimulating, whether it's acting, getting off the stage, there's a big letdown once the show's over. And the same thing, I'm sure, when the lights go off in the stadium, that it's like, I can't wait to get back in there next Sunday. But you played some great years and you played with the best in the business. Dan Marino was your QB. And tell us about some of the fun you had on the field with him. Was he still actively with the team when he played in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, by the way?
Yeah, he came off the year after they did Ace Ventura was when he tore his Achilles.
Oh, okay.
So coming in my rookie year, Dan was injured. So the rookies had to be there. The veterans, if they were healthy, didn't have to be at voluntary camp. So Dan was there and he was out there working out with us every single day. So we got to be pretty close at that time. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're out with Dan the man. Like he's trying to, get rehabbed and come back. And we were out there working out. And there was a handful of us, maybe 15, 20 guys, but he was out there every single day. So we got that relationship then where he was like, what do you do? Because I got drafted from Montana State University.
Mhm.
Bobcats, and they he used to call me the cow tipper. What do you do in Montana? Go get the cow. Like, yeah, that's kind of like a myth. You can't really knock a cow over, but he's like, oh, the cow tipper from Montana. So it was cool. Like I really enjoyed that. But I called him Mr. Marino. He's like,
Right,
hey, man, you got to stop that. We're teammates now. I'm like, man, I
right.
played with you on Tecmo Bowl. What are you talking about? You're Mr. Marino to me.
That's cool.
So,
Yeah, he's also a goat, right? We have Tom
yes,
Brady as a goat, but Dan Marino, no doubt, is a goat as well. And you're a goat, not only in your football career, but in your writing career. Love this book. It's sensational, folks. Your kids are just going to love it. The name of the book is Alewicious, the Vegetarian Alligator and Little Bird. It is a joyful children's adventure that mixes laughter, rhythm, and an uplifting message about kindness and individuality. Sean, thank you so much for joining me here today.
yes, sir, Mr. Crawford. Thank you for having me. It's been greatly appreciated.
I appreciate your time, your insight, and your wonderful talent. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time.